Alrighty, you guys, just make sure that I drop the title here because I don't think Marsha has yet. But it's her book is her outstanding book on Amazon and anywhere else. Maybe you buy books. When She Stopped Asking Why: A Mother's Journey Through Teen Substance Abuse and the Loving Path to Finding Her Clarity, Courage, and Purpose.
Mhm.
So you touched on clients a little bit earlier and some of the things that you get to do to serve them. Could you maybe illuminate some the wins or successes you've created together?
Absolutely. Um, thank you. The name of the book, I just want to say one quick thing. It's like When She Stopped Asking Why. The why was killing me. And so if you're stuck in a story and you're asking the why questions, why is a victim question and why is going to keep you stuck for a really long time. And there's no answer that is going to, like, what answer could I have possibly received that would justify what we had walked
Wow, that's powerful.
up and go, no, it's what, because what is an action word. So what lets me move forward? What lets me create change? And whenever I'm stuck in a victim question, that's a space of blame. We're back in shame. We're in low vibrations. We're in low, like there's no solution there. It requires shifting to a space of ownership. And ownership is this is gonna be a really trigger word for some people. Sitting in a space of ownership, we still get to choose how we respond to what is happening to us. I know really bad things happen to good people all the time, like all the time. It's not, none of us are immune. We are not. But what we do next is what matters. So that's the piece that I want to share on that, because that's something I still use to this day. I still use it all the time to this day. Client wins. I've had a number of clients publish their stories. I've had clients publish in collaborative books, in a solo book, and start podcasts, start their own coaching spaces. Probably one of my absolute favorite clients, and it's not a client, but it's one of my favorite stories, is I started my podcast, Own Your Choices, Own Your Life, because literally when I learned how to own my choices, that's when my life changed. And when I started that in 2017, same thing. I was excited to start it. I did it. And then I didn't know how to handle the experiences, the feedback. It was hard to receive it, to be completely honest. And so I then paused it, started it again. 2018, it was going fairly regularly. And later in the year, I had somebody, I could see I was getting downloads in Africa and I couldn't understand what was happening. But then I started to connect with a girl from Africa. We started having a number of conversations, and she's the first to tell me that she was not a victim of human trafficking. She's a survivor of human trafficking. Her story is unreal, and she has these big visions of wanting to speak at the UN. So she's young. And when I was going to publish another collaborative book called Owning Your Choices, which we actually launched in 2020. I reached out to her and I said, then Becca, I would love to have your story in our book. And she said, I don't have any money to do this. So we did a GoFundMe and we were able to get her full chapter covered. Her story is published. She's now speaking publicly about how can they support survivors of human trafficking. And she openly shares her story in such a powerful way. So it just, every time, when I said earlier about like someone somewhere is praying for your solutions, every time I get stuck in my own head, I'm like, but I wouldn't have met Thembecca. I wouldn't have been in a position to help her publish her story. So it's not about me. Like it's not about me. Can I continue to show up and share, because I know it's going to hit someone else who needs that message.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty cool feedback to get that
Yeah.
you're going the way you need to be going.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to publishing a book, that's a whole myriad of resistance in there, I'm sure. And
Yes.
so
Yes, it is.
everybody's, and like you said, everybody's got a story, right? And
Yeah.
maybe it's not a book, maybe it's a podcast you want to start, or a business, or whatever.
Mhm.
What breaking inertia, right? Just getting started can be one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people. And so, what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to launch something new, or birth a book, or whatever?
Perfect. I think if you feel that download, if you feel this like, oh, I think that's for me, that's a sign. That's a sign. What happens then is we immediately drop into but how, and we stop ourselves before we even start, right? We do. We're human. And so listen to the signs. Listen to the signs that are there and follow through. And you know what? If you feel called to have a book, to write a book, great. How can you start writing regularly? How can you start showing up? Because I think the thing is that we have to get comfortable and understand, like, what is our voice? What is my voice? My voice is different. The way I speak is different. My messaging is different. So I can't just automatically pull out a book and start writing it. You can, but you might feel very not settled or confused on what's your voice and what's your message. We have to get through that messy action and allow ourselves to start. So can you start to record like live videos? Can you start to do, even if you don't do a podcast, can you start to do regular stories? Can you start to speak out? Can you start to practice your writing? Can you get a little bit more uncomfortable with sharing your story? And if you ever do want to share your story, the biggest thing is being in a space of like being on, I like to call it on your story. If you're in your story, you're replaying, you're asking the whys constantly. That's not a space of change. You want to be in a space of on your story and learning how can you have perspective for what you've walked through and what you've come through to recognize that you have a story to share. So it does take work, and you have to go first to do the work to support yourself so that you're in a space of speaking, right? And speaking that and sharing and writing so that you are helping someone else. Like, I know when I first started, it was messy. 100% it was messy. I had to find my voice. I had to find a way to share and leave everyone in integrity. I had to find a way to be more vulnerable with myself. That took time. It takes time. It really does take time and practice. But if you've got that calling on you, that you want the book, that you want to share something, that you want the podcast, that you want to share more of who you are, that calling is there for a reason. Like don't be the person that blocks that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, if God paints it on your heart, there's a reason. It's not
There's a
because you can't
reason.
have it.
No, you might just not be ready yet, and that's okay, right? Like, it doesn't mean you can't, but you might not be ready yet. I say that with even, I look at my podcast has been going through tremendous growth, and I'm grateful for all the things that I get to do. But I remember in the beginning thinking, like, is anyone listening? I don't even know. Like, you just don't know in the beginning.
Echo
But
chamber
here's
out
the,
there.
I guarantee that had I had the success I'm having now, but if I would have had it back then, it would have freaked me out. I would have probably self-sabotaged it, and I wasn't ready. So you have to allow yourself to grow, the time to grow into the version that can share the story, that can show up authentically. It takes time. It takes work, but it's very doable.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Now, I remember reading an interview with Sergey Brin, who started Google with Larry Page, back in the 90s or yeah, and like they grew so slow. And I don't remember when I first started using Google, but I don't think it was until the 2000s. So the interviewer asked him, like, did it bother you that you grew so slowly? And he had this really great answer that I think we can all apply. And it's, what you just said, more or less. He's like, no, it didn't bother me at all, because I knew we were working on this really great thing. And the later people found us, the better, because we'd be that much farther down the road and that much better of a version of us.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's so good when you don't have a lot of eyes on you in the beginning, because you can, play and, there's not like that much pressure. And, when they do find you, the timing will be right and you'll be ready to, just co-elevate together.
That's the growth process. That's exactly what you're talking about. It takes time to go through that. You can't, unfortunately, we can't skip steps. Like, Google's amazing, but Google has also set us up to believe I can get my answer right away. I'm going to get my solution right away. Right. And we know that's not true, right? You hear anybody that you might look up to and admire for what they've done and accomplished. When you really listen to their backstory, like, they're the 20-year overnight success story, right? Like there's so many chapters to get there. So A, I think we want to jump steps. B, I think that we tell ourselves we're not ready, or we live in doubt, or C, we think, that's for other people, that's not for me. And none of that's true. Like we have to give ourselves the time to continue to grow into that version that is able and to hold. Because if not, we all know it's going to happen. Like when we're not ready and we're not able to hold what is happening and unfolding for us, we'll self-sabotage and blow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all do.
Uh, that's a great point, right? The overnight success it took 2 decades. It's read any biography of anybody that you look up to, and that's pretty much the case. Like, like one of the big things that we work to do with the folks that we get to serve is like helping them, unlock and step into their genius. And like, who's one of the most well-known geniuses of all time, Einstein. And if you read his biography, it's actually pretty slow because it took him a long time to get traction. And I think when he was a little kid, they thought something was wrong with him mentally,
Yes,
even
they did. Yeah.
And so it's all good. It worked out for him in the end. I think he did okay with his life. And
Yeah, you did.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, this is super fun. You're super powerful at really just getting to the essence of the things you're talking about. And I hope you guys that are listening really understand how much is packed into the things that she said. There's so much like energy and power in every word that Marsha uses. So I'm glad you're doing what you do because I can't imagine the people that you're just empowering and inspiring with your courage. So super grateful to know that people like you are with us.
Thank you. I receive that. I do receive that. And like, thank you for this platform and what you're doing. You're a great speaker, great podcaster. And I mean, I love the title because I do believe deep down we are all capable of unlocking our own freedom.
Yeah, well said.
Mhm.
Well, let's do a little fire round. I've got some questions I like to ask all the beautiful
I'm
people that
ready.
come through here. And, a lot of this is for me because I love to learn. So, what, what's like a piece of mindset advice you'd give to somebody, just somebody that's looking to do something new in their life? And they said, hey, can you give me one piece of mindset advice?
I think the first thing is brutal honesty with what's not working.
Oh,
Brutal,
so
brutal
good.
honesty. Be honest with like what's not working, not shameful, not like because they're like, oh, I'm aware of it, but I always do that. I'm like, no, that's not change. So I would say be brutally honest with what you know isn't working, and then just add one change, like one change a day, and let it compound.
Oh, yeah, that's great advice. Okay, what's something in your life, Marsha, that's non-negotiable?
It's movement. It's movement of some kind. I mean, whether it is my own workouts, I have a dog that walks like insane amounts every single day. And some days I resist the movement, but I know how good it is for me mentally and physically, like emotionally. It's movement.
Yeah, I always joke my dog Frank's like my trainer. Yeah, he's
Oh, yeah.
always up for something, moving, wise.
100%.
Okay, favorite book to read, recommend, giveaway in addition to When She Stopped Asking Why by Marsha
Oh my
Vanwynsberghe.
gosh, there's so many. I heard this question. I was like, okay, but I'm going to go with my gut. To me, Daring Greatly is just it's a powerful book to understand that we all have the ability to like dare greatly, to think bigger and to go after what we are meant to do while we're here. Our time is limited. It really is. So please go after what your gifts, you're capable of doing in this world.
Yeah, it's not a practice run. Let's go get it.
It's not a practice run.
Is that
No,
Brene Brown on Daring
it
Greatly?
is.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, Brene's she knows what she's doing too.
She
no,
does. She
what's
does.
one message if you could get it out to everybody in the world? What would that be?
The story only ever has the meaning that you give it. And so if you give the story the meaning that you failed, that you're small, that you're not good enough, which I did for a long time. Okay. I did do that. Then that story has a lot of power and it will keep you stuck for a very long time. And if you can shift the meaning of the story to, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't get to do the work that I get to do. I, I, I wouldn't if I hadn't lived it. So I know that's difficult to be grateful for difficult times, but can we be grateful for who we're becoming in the process?
Yeah, that's such a fantastic way of saying that. The continued fixation on the problem becomes the new problem after the problem
It
has
does.
long gone.
that's a great message. It does. That's such a great message. And before you know it, it just perpetuates every single day. You're building on it. So I always say you're only ever feeding the story, that your past story or the direction you're going. You get to choose, right? Every decision takes you closer to or further away from where you want to go, every single one. And so if you choose to feed the story, you will keep yourself stuck. Choose to feed yourself, take care of yourself, self-care, boundaries, all of those things, then you're like feeding that future version of yourself. You're allowing her or him to become what they're meant to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you create, from purpose right there is when
Mm-hmm.
purpose is based on emotion, the like truth and love, not fear and pain. And,
No,
it's like we can't encapsulate the truth with words, but we sure can point to what it's not and what it is.
so true. That is so true.
What does freedom mean to you, Marsha?
Oh, freedom is such a big word and I love it. For me it is choosing what my heart wants me to follow, not what I feel like I'm supposed to do. Like choosing in the moment what I feel is the right answer, the right pull for me, and not making it for the wrong decisions, for the wrong reasons. Like making those decisions because I know in my gut that's the right choice for me, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, even if it doesn't make sense sometimes, because there are times I follow my intuition a lot and I'm like, ooh, gosh, I have this in me that is my second book, my second solo book is coming. It's the worst time in the world. It makes absolutely no sense. It keeps hitting me over the head. The name has dropped down, like all of these things. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm actually supposed to listen, even though it doesn't make sense. And that's what freedom means to me, is following that gut pull, even when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but that's creation right there because it doesn't make sense because it's never existed. And, Galileo, obviously a brilliant guy, and he said all truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. Like, yeah, of course we revolve around the sun. Everybody knows that. Of course the world is round. Everybody knows that. Of course we shouldn't use leeches to let blood. Everybody knows that, right? But
Once they are just, I love that. I absolutely love that. So good.
yeah,
So true.
yeah, but that was high intelligence back in the day, right? So it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. All right, last question. Where can people go to learn more about you, engage with you, and connect?
The easiest way is if you start typing Marsha Van W in Google, I pretty much come up as all of the options, which is really cool. Um, because they don't have
Yeah.
to spell my whole name. That's why. But it's, yeah, right. And I would always invite people to follow into my podcast is Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. I've had so many incredible stories and people who have shared. If you ever want some, nuggets of inspiration and to hear what some real life people have come through, there's the stories in there, they blow your mind all the time. So anywhere there, typing my name, Marsha Van W, it'll all show up.
Oh, super cool. Well, I'm really grateful for our time together today. Thanks for just choosing you and owning your power and sharing it with all of us. It's super empowering and inspiring just to get to be a part of it with you. So very grateful. How about give us one more thought and we'll roll out?
Oh, first off, thank you for having me. I am really grateful for this conversation. It's very special. My last thought is that someone somewhere is praying for the solutions you're holding on to. And a lot of times it is like a past version of you. You could be there for that person. And I'll tell you something, when you've walked through a crazy story and a lot of challenges, there's nothing better than to turn all that pain into a purpose.
Oh, so well said. All right, you guys, thanks for being here till the end. We love y'all. And if you found some value in this, please share it. Somebody out there needs to hear what Marsha has to say. So we'll see you guys next time on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast.